So I'm sure that most folks, when they um, watched the morning news, found out what happened last night in the Golan Heights. Israel knew for several days that Iran was planning to launch a bunch of missiles against the Golan Heights, which is why they put a bunch of military positions up in there, told people to go in their bunkers who were in the Golan Heights, and Benjamin Netanyahu, while visiting Vladimir Putin in Russia, explained to him what was going on and what Israel was going to do, and Israel was not going to allow ever Iran to have forward positions against Israel in Syria, period. So, before, I believe it was before Benjamin Netanyahu got home, the Iranians started firing rockets against the Golan positions, but none of them hit their target. None of them. Which people will say, and rightly so, well, this would be a confirmation, or this would be proof of Ezekiel 38 and 39. And I'm not disagreeing with that. There is a however. You see, I believe that eventually, not too far from now, that the Russians will say, let's show you how it's done, Iran. And, pride is a trap that many fall in and are unable to get out of. Once again, Ezekiel 38, it talks about, in verse 4, concerning leaders of the north countries, mainly Russia, but also Turkey today. I will turn you back and put hooks in your jaws and bring you forth all. Now, in Hebrew, it doesn't say all your army. It does not say that. That's added by King James. It just says your army. Horses and horsemen, clothed in armor, a company with bucklers and shields. Once again, doesn't say all of them. It says handling swords. Then it says in verse 5, Persia. It mentions Iran, Persia, being what appears to be the front line in this whole scenario. Okay, we talked about how Sudan, which was once a part of Ethiopia, can be represented in this particular passage in verse 5. And Russia has now has bases in Libya. Verse 6, Gomer, that would be location of Turkey today in the house of Togarmah. The Armenians claim to be of the house of Togarmah. Okay. Now, we must not forget who started the 60s, the 6-Day War. It was the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union convinced Egypt to close the Gulf of Aqaba, and I believe it was the Gulf of Aqaba, and that is to Israel an act of war. Besieging Israel is an act of war. Besieging any country is an act of war. Let's be honest about it. And closing the Gulf of Aqaba was an act of war. And so Israel, realizing what was happening, did their what they're well noted for, um, preemptive strikes to stop incoming before they even get ready. Well, what we saw yesterday, once again, the Iranians hiding behind the skirts of Syria launches these missiles against the Golan Heights, but they all miss their targets. Again, this is probably going to continue to happen until Russia finally gets fed up and say, let us show you how to do it. And thereby being entrapped, dragged with hooks in their jaws. Even if they don't, even if Iran does eventually penetrate the border of Israel, but it does say that they are all going to be on the mountains of Israel. It says right here in verse 7, come against the mountains of Israel, ascend and come like a storm. You see, and Russia is well noted for, and many other countries, for having their proxies do their dirty work and then swooping in to collect the spoils when the proxies run out of manpower, so to speak. Now, when they come and cross the Israeli border into the mountains of Israel, something is going to happen. I mentioned this over a year ago. Verse 17, it says, and thus saith Jehovah Elohim, are you he of whom I spoke in old times by my servants, the prophets of Israel? Yes, Joel. Many of them. But Joel is a really good example, and Isaiah is another very good example. And it shall come to pass at the same time when Gog shall come against the land of Israel, saith Jehovah Elohim, that my fury shall come up in my face. So when they cross into the Holy Land and start trampling on holy ground, Jehovah's fury is going to come up in his face. For in my jealousy and in the fire of my wrath have I spoken. Surely in that day there shall be a great shaking in the land of Israel, a monstrous earthquake, so that the fishes of the sea, and the fowls of the heaven, and the beasts of the field, and all creeping things that creep upon the earth, and all the men that are on the face of the earth shall shake at my presence, and the mountains shall be thrown down, and the steep places shall fall, and every wall shall fall to the ground, and I will call for a sword against them throughout all my mountains, saith Jehovah. Every man's sword shall be against his brother. That is also written in Haggai 2, verses 18 through 22. Is what happened last night, is it the beginning of this? Well, this is the first time that I know of that Israel and Iran are now waging war against each other when Iran is Russia's proxy. So yes, I think it's safe to say this is the beginning of the Ezekiel 38-39 war. I'll make this video short and simple. I said it didn't take a genius to figure out that this would begin in the middle of May. That was a no-brainer, folks. Contrary to what these false preachers love to say, they say the Lord told me at night, when no such thing happened. I'm just telling you that a child could have predicted what was going to happen in the middle of May 2018. Now, could not have predicted it a year ago, but a few months ago. It was easy. It was not hard. So, if you haven't been paying attention before, start paying attention now. Prepare yourself. This has just begun.